Thank you. Thank you. Hi. Okay, so let's do this. So I'm here to talk about how to run big rewrite projects, and I'm really happy to share the lessons that I've learned. So I'll talk about my experience working at Songcake. Songcake is a live music platform notifying you when your favorite artists come to town, so you can buy tickets and go see them. And I worked there for over 8 years. And during that time, I had the pleasure of running 3 big rewrite projects for 3 very different products. The first one was Songcake.com, way back in 2011. We were rewriting monolithic applications into front ends and services. And then Songcake merged with another company, and we inherited lots of great things. But the rewrite from scratch of a ticket store that was in progress, and an internal tools product that needed a lot of help. I'll use those examples throughout the talk. Cool. Okay, so I had done a talk about the first Songcake rewrite. So this talk is a continuation on the theme, and it has a different title. Does anyone know who these charming men are? Raise hands. No? Okay, few, great. So they're the Smiths. If you can put more, say, political views aside for a second, because I want to reclaim their songs. The song's title fit really well with this talk, so I'm going to use them throughout the talk. The few of you who know them here can spot them and then get a nice playlist at the end. Cool, okay. So the talk, we're going to talk through the problem, how to start the project, how to run it, how to finish it, and hopefully how to never have to have that kind of project again. Cool. Great. So let's start with the problem. Everyone here is really great at their jobs. They're writing really good code with tests and everything, building really good and useful products. But somehow our code seems to follow this inevitable path to chaos and growing way too much and becoming really hard to change. Why is that? Well, we shipped your new product to production. Customers are happy. Here's your new product, all small and green. You might consider it done. But while the project might be finished, the code is only really finished once it's not running in production anymore. In the meantime, it will be forever changing. New features, new bugs that you need to fix. And even if you don't change anything in the project, things around you might change. So infrastructure, frameworks will need to be upgraded, and things like that. So yesterday, Adam Thornhill mentioned the Lehman's law of software evolution, and that fits really perfectly with this. What you'll know is that the software will always be growing, and kind of the entropy of that, of your code will always be changing. So this is just the reality of it. If you disregard that entropy, you're going to accumulate lots of features and dependency until it's too hard to make any changes to your project. So in the case of that ticket store and internal tools that I mentioned, there were lots of features, but there were no clear modules or structure to it. There were little tests. And in the case of Songcake.com, it was on the other side of that spectrum. It also had lots of features, but it had a lot of complexity in it. It had a lot of end-to-end slow tests, and that also made it very hard to change. Sarah May used this metaphor for a code like that, both the under-engineered and the over-engineered. It's like a hoarder's house. So there are lots of great and useful things in there, but it's really hard to see what's valuable from what wasn't in all this mess in here, and it's quite risky and scary to change anything. So, you know something needs to be done. Like, you need to clean up this hoarder's house. It's too dangerous. So if only you could throw it all away and start over, right? So everything will be better. Congratulations. You're about to embark on a big rewrite project. But before you start, ask yourself these 2 questions. Is it the right time, and is it the right reason? So there's a point in time where it pays off to invest in maintainability. Before that, you might want to check and kind of focus on getting your product to market faster. So at Songcake, we use the 2 different terms for that, product discovery and product delivery. So during the discovery, what you're trying to do is to learn as quickly as possible and check your ideas and hypotheses and validate your product or your feature market fit. Once that's proven, the product delivery starts. And during this phase, you're focusing on stabilizing and making sure the product or feature can be changed and extended easily. So during product delivery, it's really when it's worth investing in tech, and maybe running a planned rewrite project like this could be useful. It only makes sense to invest in something big like that if the product has a proven value to your business today. So before you go out and ask for time to do this work and potentially pause adding any new features to this legacy project, make sure that you have a clear reason for why you're doing it, and that is not just an exercise in technology. So find a business case for your project. For example, if you're unsure how to find a business case for it, make sure to talk to your business stakeholders, to other departments, and understand what value technology brings to your company. And then you can articulate how the current legacy system that you have is not bringing that value. If you can't explain your business case or a goal for this project to someone outside of technology, you don't have a good enough reason yet. So keep going back to that until you find it. So is it the right reason? Yes, if there's a clear business case. We're not hired to just write code, right? But to deliver value in whatever form it takes in your company that you work for. So figure out, understand what that is first. Okay. This is my favorite slide. Okay, so now you know what value this project will bring. How can you get the business on board? So how can you get whoever decides how time and money is spent in your company to give you what you need to do this project? So how to sell it? So have one clear business case. So we already talked about that. You already have that. You worked on it. It makes sense to everyone outside of technology. It's super valuable. Good job. But the reason I call it out here is because that's just one business case. So you're going to have lots of hard decisions to make during this project. So it's really good to have just one clear goal that will help you prioritize the work and make those tough decisions while you're running it. Create excitement about the new world, what the new world will look like once this project is done. So it's not going to be about fixing slow tests or making the code last bad or upgrading a framework. It's about how you'll be able to, what you'll be able to do once this project is done. So make it about how this project will be a transformation to your organization and paint this picture of a better future for everyone. Speaking of everyone, find people in other departments that are as frustrated as you are about the lack of change or the slow-moving change. They'll help you advocate for your project once they understand how that will impact their own jobs and help them do their jobs better. Make the pain visible. So there is this expectation mismatch between how a small, quick, easy change to this project is and how hard it actually is to make that change, right? You know it, you've seen the code, right? You know how difficult that is. But everyone else who hasn't seen it, they really don't know how to understand it, right? So help them see that by finding different creative ways in how to communicate it, the technical side of it without going into too much detail. So these diagrams are kind of representing something that I did, which is just drawing red and green boxes around. The red ones were projects that were harder to change, and then the green ones were the ones that are kind of slightly easier to change. And that really helped the whole company understand what was needed to be done on the red projects and why, and what were the green ones that we could focus our short-term goals on those green ones while we worked on the red boxes and needed to fix. Also, use lots of metaphors. I think I've heard lots of them today, but I've already used some of this in this talk as well. So the hoarder's house, personal hygiene also works sometimes, gardening, urban planning, all of those things, they really help. So think about what are the good metaphors that will resonate with people in your company. Yeah, do repeat yourself. So it's not going to be after, 1 half-hour presentation with all those metaphors and diagrams that I just showed that you get all the buy-in that you need, and then the people will leave you alone and you just run the project and that's it. It will take a lot of time and it will take a lot of persistence and persuasion from your part to share the message, make sure everyone understands and repeat this message multiple times. So have a clear message when you're communicating, adapt between tech and non-tech, obviously, but when possible, use all the same diagrams, the same metaphors that I mentioned throughout all those conversations. I mean, everyone here, I guess, knows about ubiquitous language, so this is the ubiquitous language of your project. Also having a project name, a cool one, also helps. Cool. Did I mention that you have to repeat yourself? Yeah, I mean, I was just calling it out that it is, sometimes you're tired of it. You feel like everyone is already tired as well, but they are not. So once you're tired of it, repeat it a couple of times more, and then maybe people will get it. I had all hands presentations, show and tell sessions, Q&A sessions with all departments, lots of those different sessions to get that message across. So repeat yourself. Cool. How to run it. So the whole company is on your side. You're ready to start, but do you know where you're going? So to help figure that out, create a technical vision for your future. It doesn't have to be super detailed. Like, the purpose really is to show an overview of the current state and what the future will look like and what are the guiding principles that you're going to use to get there. You know, technical architecture, as lots of other things in our job, is not really set in stone. It's a process that you'll discover once you start working on this rewrite. Decide what's right for now, where you want to get to, and then review and iterate those decisions as you start and learn more. The important thing here is that your whole team should be bought into the vision that you have, and you should build that vision with your team. So how to get from one to the other, right? Your first approach might be, you know, let's throw it all away, let's start over, like a rewrite from scratch, a greenfield project, like everyone loves one of those. So let's look at what it looks like when you're rewriting from scratch. So there are usually two teams. One is working on the new application down there, and the other one is maintaining the legacy one, because if you could just turn it off, you wouldn't be rewriting it, right? So you'll be creating the new application until eventually you can turn off the legacy one, because the new one's replaced it completely. It is easy to reason about, like it's all shiny and new for this lucky team that's working on the greenfield project down here. But there are many issues with this approach, and I think the biggest one to call out is that you only get value at the very end. You don't know if what you're building is the right thing, if it's easy to maintain, or even if it's the thing that you still want as a business. You only discover once the full project is finished. It also makes it difficult for the company to switch priorities, so until the whole thing is fully done, you haven't gotten any benefit from this rewrite. And if you go back in time, like once this rewrite is in progress, business will want new features, there will be bugs to be fixed, so you end up adding to that legacy application that you wanted to kill in the first place, so that's not helpful. Rewrite from scratch is really kind of a waterfall process for rewrites. We're not building products like this anymore, so why should we run big technical migrations in the same way, right? And this is why most of these rewrite projects are never really finished, right? Once business priority changes, this is the first thing that will get dropped. But there is another way. So, well, it's big. Martin Fowler called this term strangler application. So this is a metaphor that comes from a strangler vine kind of slowly growing in the upper branches of a tree until it reaches the soil. So the strangler vine is your new application, slowly strangling, it's quite hard, the new application, gradually replacing the legacy one. In this approach, you have one lane of work, and then the team is carving out functionality from the legacy application until the legacy application is gone and you end up with the new one only. This doesn't mean you're using the same tech. It doesn't mean you're even rewriting in the same project. This is especially easier for web applications, like you replace page by page or workflow by workflow and then link the two applications. Because of that, it is harder to think about. Like, you have to untangle all the legacy. You have to think about how you're going to connect those two applications and live in this time where you have two slightly different products. But the big positive is that you get value delivered throughout this process here, right? And not only that, you're validating the complete end-to-end delivery of this new product. So this means not only doing the tech part, but communicating with everyone in the company to get it delivered, migrating data, migrating users, monitoring production and seeing how it behaves, and so on. This also means that there's an incentive to pick features there that are business-driven instead of just whatever the developer who's doing the greenfield project wants to do first. Cool. And then when there comes a requirement for a new feature, then you can add it at any point there, and you release it, and it's all good. So I've used this approach many times, and I really recommend it. So this is kind of an example here on the internal tools project. So you have 2 pages, orders and customers, and the customer support team person using it there. We would take end-to-end slices of the new application and then move it to the new one. At this point, we could show it to the customer support team, and they could test it out and give feedback. And once we're ready to release it, we would redirect all the users to the new flow. And then remove it from the legacy application. And then pick up the new flow. And then go on and on like that until you have the legacy application gone. This allows you to adapt and change direction It has better cost management, and you can pause at any time here, and then you have something better than you had before. Like if we had decided that this is not as important anymore, at least the customer support team has a better way to handle customer data. Cool. So during that Sonke.com rewrite, the first example that I mentioned, the reason why we were rewriting it is because we had a very bloated application. There were lots of features that we added throughout the years to find product market fit, and it was very difficult to release changes and to figure out what was valuable from what wasn't in all of that code. So we started our first attempt at rewriting using the strangler pattern, but it failed miserably because we were kind of reevaluating every corner of the website as we were rewriting it. So we would start a new page and we would go back to the product or design team and say, is this really needed? Can we simplify this feature? Is this a bug or a feature? Actually, there were a lot of questions like that. How does this work again? So we'll go on, and that was making it really, really slow. What we realized is that we needed to use this rewrite as an opportunity to review the whole product first. So we wanted to finish it as quickly as possible, and a great way to finish it quickly is to reduce scope and focus on only rewriting what's needed. So we did a reset of the project, the rewrite that we were doing, and went back to figuring out what Songcake's main proposition was. So what was the reason why users kept coming back? For Songcake at the time, it was to be notified for concerts for artists that they liked. So features that power those propositions, we classified as must-haves. Features that were improvements on that were the should-haves. And then features that we decided, they're not as valuable as we thought, we call them won't-haves. This is a framework to identify value of features in products that you might have heard as Moscow framework, and it helps you prioritize and cut back work in a time box project. But what I wanted to highlight here is that we aligned the must-have tasks to the product's main proposition. So that made it really easy for us to decide whether a feature would go into the must-have or the should-have pile. Also to highlight, the won't-haves weren't would like to have, or like maybe later we'll add it back. They were really dropped, and we removed them completely. There was no, we removed completely from the code and from the product. Later on, with further user research, some of those features were added back, but we saw that as a completely new feature to add it again. So we didn't leave anything behind just in case. So I think this is one of the main reasons why this really worked and it was successful in the end. Like we weren't trying to rebuild everything. We were just using that guiding principle to only build what was valuable for our users. It's a tough process to go through, but it's really important. So go back to this question, like if you're starting over, what would you build today, knowing what you know now, and then build only that. Cool. So now the project is going strong, hopefully. So here are some things to keep in mind as you're running the project. You have one main goal, right? You have that one main business goal. So find out what's the biggest blocker for that. Create a realistic plan to do it, and then do it completely. This is how you avoid having lots of half-finished attempts and like half-finished migrations. So make sure that when you're doing it, you do it completely and do it just one at a time. For that ticket store application that I mentioned, the biggest blocker, it was to actually decommission it. So it was a rewrite project that was already started. It was in the proverbial like 80% done, but the 20% had no plan for when it would happen, and there was no clear end in sight. So we applied that must-have, won't-have framework to the product with the sales team. We dropped everything that wasn't a won't-have, and then we did a plan to finish all the must-have features, and went with the sales team talking to the customers and the clients to try to explain to them why it was better for them if they didn't have that feature that they used to have a long time ago. It was really hard work, but we had a great sales team. And it wasn't really glamorous. And I think to call out here, it wasn't very technical. It was just talking to the sales team and talking to customers and getting the whole plan finished. But it needed to happen in order to unblock us for us to be able to focus on the new ticket store that we wanted to use. And it was a lot better than the old one. Celebrate your successes. So during this project, you'll be making lots of behind-the-scenes changes, but really it's impacting the whole company, right? Everyone's waiting for it to be finished. So don't forget about that. It's really hard to get people excited about burn-down charts, so find other creative ways to show how progress and to celebrate things that you've done. So here are a couple of examples from Songcake again. So this is when the ticket store was finally decommissioned. The original developer and the product manager and the team wrote an email, an obituary for the application. So here's a photo representing the application near where the office was. So it was really a celebration of a new beginning, but also an acknowledgement of all the value that legacy project had brought to the company, and it was really, really sweet. This other example was when we were running the Strangler application of the internal tools project. Our product designer, Kareem, created a game around it. So he mapped the team's goals and metrics to badges and achievements. So here are a couple of examples. The table smasher for a number of database, like deprecated database tables that were deleted. And then my favorite one, which was the force shift. So this is percentage of usage of the new application versus the legacy one. So this is showing how much the Strangler application pattern is working or not. And it wasn't just code being written, it was actually Google Analytics, like usage of the new application compared to the legacy one. And then the little game hero as well. So they printed all those badges near where the team sat and had their stand-ups, and they had a party popper there. So when a badge was unlocked, they would do it, and everyone in the office would hear. So it was really exciting. There's a blog post about that he wrote, so I'll share that in the slides later if you want to read more about it. He explains how to go through the whole process. So it's a long project, so do repeat yourself again. Keep going back to that tech vision that you have and the business goal, and updating the team on the progress, and reminding everyone why you're doing this, right? Cool, how to finish it? Yay, great. You're not gonna finish it, which is great. You're not gonna finish it, not completely, and that's fine. Priorities will change. You'll have lots and lots of things that you know you should do, but you won't have time to do everything. So that's why you take an iterative approach, like the Strangler application. You break down the project as much as you can. You pick the changes with the highest impact first, and you reduce scope as much as you can as well. Within 3 months of starting the rewrite of Songkick.com, we decoupled the front ends from the rest of the legacy system, and that unlocked us to work on different products and use different markets as well. So we after that focus time of splitting the two, we kind of kept going on the rewrite in the background, and it wasn't impacting the business anymore, so we unblocked ourselves as quickly as we could. Even though, and I think that was a success, even though we hadn't really completely finished the rewrite. This rewrite project should be viewed as a one-time opportunity, like it's focus time for you to kind of unblock yourself as quickly as you can, but really you should find ways of doing this kind of maintenance work as part of your normal conditions, right? So how to not need it again. You should use this rewrite project as an opportunity to adopt good habits. So I'm happy to say that after the rewrite of Songkick.com, almost 8 years ago, actually, to this month, that we haven't had to rewrite it ever again. So it's great, and the internal tools and ticket store improvements were happening at the same time as they were being rewritten. So that was really good. Software entropy is a reality, right? If you're supporting software that's being used, you'll have to change it and maintain it, and it will grow over time. So you need to keep ahead of that entropy and keep it at a manageable level and reduce scope as much as you can. So we know maintaining a software has a cost, like we see it every day, but for the rest of the company, it might be invisible. Like once the product is launched, everyone else might forget that you actually have to keep maintaining it, right? So find ways to highlight that. One way that I did was a very boring way, but it's literally to do an inventory of all applications that we have a list of all of them, and then go through with the product managers and define their maintenance level for each one of them. So it was a way to highlight that we have all these applications that are costing us to maintain. Do we still need it or not? And we review that list every quarter. As I said before, like code is only finished when it's not running in production anymore, so make sure that the code that you have is bringing value and it has enough value to justify its maintenance. If not, delete. Delete code, obviously, if it's not being used. Everyone here uses version control system, I hope. So if you see code that's not being used, take the initiative of deleting it and cleaning it up. Don't even talk to me about commented out code. I don't want to hear if you have that, because that just makes me sad. So delete that code. But go a step further and delete. Make the process of reviewing whole features and products part of your process. So as part of those maintenance conversations, sometimes the decision was to deprecate a feature or a product, and that's fine. It's part of the life cycle of the product. It doesn't say anything about the code or the work that I had done. It's just part of its life cycle. So keep going back to this question, right? So you as an engineer should bring the cost of maintaining those features and those products, and then product and business should tell you, what's the value of it and the usage and so on, and then together you can decide whether it's valuable to maintain it or not. Making those decisions together reduces surprises, and then when we actually need time to do those maintenance, like in a project, then at least the business and product will be more aware of those needs, right? So constantly do this reevaluation and then delete what's not that. Cool. So to keep software entropy under control, you need to think about how to kind of support and encourage day-to-day small changes. It wasn't the big decisions that broke your project. It wasn't a big decision that created that hoarder's house, right? It was one small decision at a time until you ended up in the hoarder's house. So to avoid that, you have to be constantly doing housekeeping. Create the discipline of making those small decisions to make things a little bit better every day. So refactor a little bit and often, and as an engineer, don't ask for permission to do it. Refactor the task or the story that you're working on today. If you're changing that, if you're fixing a bug or adding a feature, you know that that's a valuable thing to do, so make the code in that area better when you're doing that change. And also make it clear to everyone outside of technology that that's important, and to everyone in the engineering team that that's expected. So you should just communicate and educate product managers and designers and coach developers that they should be doing that work as part of their day-to-day work. Another really big win for us, and I highly recommend it, is to adopt continuous deployment or delivery. We're deploying multiple times a day to production. Having continuous deployment to production and a fast release cycle was extremely important to change that mindset of doing small changes incrementally. It removes any friction that you have to make those changes, and you can make them confidently because you have a good suite of tests to make sure that you're not going to break anything. And also, if you're working off the main branch of master, it means you're removing the fear of the dreaded merges, and you can see what everyone else is working on. So if you want to remove a method or rename something, you can do that without worrying how it will impact everyone else, because everyone will be merging the changes constantly. So these two technical process changes enabled a cultural change in our team. There were really no excuses for the smallest improvement and pushing the smallest change. And then get used to inconsistencies in your code. Your code is never going to be perfect. I mean, that's not the goal anyway, right? The goal is to deliver value. So make sure your code is going to be, if you're changing the code, your code is going to be changing constantly, obviously. So it's never going to be perfect. It's always going to be evolving. So get used to those inconsistencies. What's important is to have that shared technical vision of where you're going towards. And then when you see something that's not right, you can kind of move towards that vision. But get used to things not being 100% perfect. Cool. So this talk was about big rewrite projects, but really it's about how to build maintainable and sustainable technology, and to know when to invest in big technical projects like this with the business context in mind. So do it at the right time and for the right reason, with a clear business goal, iterate on delivering it, and reduce scope as much as you can. And once you're done, keep making your code better as part of your day-to-day work, and make software maintenance costs visible and part of the business conversation. We're not hired to deliver code. We're hired to deliver positive business impact. So understand where that's coming from, and then take responsibility for understanding your company so that you can make those open-eyed decisions, knowing when to cut corners and when to invest in maintainability. Here are the songs. if you miss them, I'll be around. And yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you for the great talk. We still have a few minutes for some questions.
Excellent. Question on doing the rewrites. Do you have any heuristics for when you've bitten off more than you can chew and you need to cut your losses?
That's a good question. Time. Yeah, because I think usually, 100% of the time, you're not going to get enough time to do the work. You're always going to have less. So I think time box it and do as much as you can within that time. I think that's how we approached it. Yeah. There's one there.
How do you maintain a cadence where you constantly review features to see if they're still useful? How do you build that into your regular process?
Yeah, that's a good question. So our process already had regular reviews every quarter of the company goals and OKRs. So we're setting the objectives for the quarter at the beginning or the end of each quarter. So we will do that as part of that process. So if you have anything like that in your company that you can tag along to, that's how we did ours.
Okay,
Cool.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.